Hello and welcome to Jamie TV. Thank you very much for being here. Today we are going to talk about the latest Cubasis 3.4 update, which is very exciting. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the chat, Vortex. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're not too well, dude. I hope that clears up for you very quickly. And Gregory, it's nice that you're awake. Thank you for being here. Everyone watching, thanks for joining me. And if you are watching from the future, then very pleased to have you here. Now, I've made some notes because there's quite a few things to talk about. Now, let's just deal with a couple of things first. Of course, Steinberg have done what they always do. They've worked on an update for some time. They don't give us lots of little updates like a lot of app developers do. They give us big updates every now and then. And so they're always kind of exciting because we get some big new things. Now, a couple of people have been quite negative about it because they didn't get what they wanted from the update. And the main two things that I wanted, I didn't get. I still can't mix a track down in mono, and we still don't have a tempo track. I know an awful lot of people are disappointed about the tempo track. Now, those two things are still on the list. Steinberg are going to be looking at them. It's not that they're not going to happen, it's just they haven't happened yet. How they decide what to add when, I can't account for that. But the number of people who have said, come on, where is tempo track, is quite phenomenal this time around. So I'm fingers crossed, hoping for that for next time. Now, there's been an awful lot of little bug fixes. I'm not going to go into those because it's a long list and it's a bit boring, really, let's be honest. But I will tell you that I've been using Cubasis an awful lot, as I always do, since the update. And rather than talking about specific little bug fixes, all I'm going to say is that the workflow is vastly improved. A lot of those little irritating things have just gone. And so it's a great pleasure to work with it. But a few of the updates, there are some little glitches that come with those updates. They don't work absolutely perfectly across the board, and I've heard from Steinberg about that. They are working on corrections for those issues straight away, and so I think what we can expect is a 3.4.1 just to correct those little bugs. Sky's Watcher, thank you for being here. Glad you got the notification. So am I too. So am I. Let me just check that my Samsung extra camera here is working before I click onto it, because it does tend to sometimes go to sleep for some inexplicable reason, and then sometimes it doesn't. Now, before I crack on, I have to ask you guys a question. I want to know if you can help me, because well, last night I set up an Ableton Link session because I'm going to demonstrate that later on in this stream. I'm going to do that last. And what I had AUM and Cubasis 3 on my new iPad, which I'll show you in a moment. I had those linked in and working together, and I also had some audio coming into my new iPad from my old iPad, which was also Ableton linked. Now today I've fired up the old iPad and it will not Ableton link, right? It just will not see. In fact, I'll show you. Let me just go to, if I go to this view here, right? Okay, so you can see over here, this is my old iPad, where I am currently monitoring the chat. And I also have the chat on a big computer screen over there, but that's a bit far away from my 50-year-old eyes. So I'm using this one because it's a bit closer, and I can, if I just do a little bit of that, I can see it. I'm just gonna come out of there, go to AUM on this iPad, and now this has Ableton Link enabled, and it's also enabled on this new iPad here. But this is not connecting, it's not finding it. And I've tried restarting, I've tried going into settings, I've Googled it. I can't find any information anywhere about what to do when this happens. So my question to you, the viewers, is do you know what to do? Because I am at a loss. And if I can't get this working, then I can't do the full demonstration I wanted to do later on in the stream. The annoying thing about this is, if I take my iPhone, which is the main camera, this one, if I take that and these two iPads into the house and open up music software on all of them, they all Ableton Link immediately. Right? They link immediately on the in the house Wi-Fi. Now this Wi-Fi in the studio, it comes, because the studio is in a separate building outside, it comes down the mains. So the router in the house, it goes into the mains, and then there's a adapter in here, and then I get the Wi-Fi from there in the studio. Vortex says you've got to make sure they're on the same Wi-Fi network. Well, you see, I've wondered whether that might be the issue, but it was working in here last night. So let me just go to my Wi-Fi settings on here. It is on the same network. What if I just switch the Wi-Fi off here and switch it back on, right? And it's picked up the correct one, and now Ableton Link is still not fine. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to leave it and see if it sort of, maybe it'll just kind of get the plot later on. Maybe it'll connect itself. But if anyone has any ideas, then just, let me know. Try enable it. Well, I can't disable the Wi-Fi on this iPad because everything's going to go pear-shaped if I do that. But enable, disable, link again. Yeah, we could try that. Right, so we'll disable that there. I'll tell you what, we'll disable that there, and we'll also go in here and disable the Wi-Fi here, right? And then we'll click it back on, make sure it finds the right one. That's the right fella. And go back here and reactivate Ableton Link. And then we'll just leave it and just see if it catches up. Let's get on with the rest. Yeah, exactly. I can't like unplug the Wi-Fi while I'm live, because then stream gone. But hey, is that a super chat? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciated. January's been a little bit tough because, like, there's not many gigs for a musician in January, so thank you very much. That's really very much appreciated. Yeah, so, okay, out of ideas. Let's just leave it. We'll come back to it later. I'm just going to play this and so I can monitor the chat over here. Right, okay. So, I made a list of things because I am very old, and if I don't have a list, I will forget stuff. So, what do we need to look at? Oh, right, yes. So I started the stream with a tune. I'm not saying it's a great tune, but just something I knocked together quite quickly the day that I got this new iPad. So I got, with my 50th birthday money plus put a bit to myself, I got this iPad. It's a 2021 M1 processor, 11 Pro 1TB, so it's the 16 gig thing. So it's a super powerful, up-to-date iPad. And of course, when I got it, I was really keen to see how much, how much it could actually do. What could it cope with? So what I was doing there when the intro music was playing was I was trying with my mouse to get you to look at the DSP down here. Now, I'll just tell you, right? I got this iPad because I didn't think I was going to be able to afford, one of the M1 ones because they're pretty pricey. But the way that I managed to do it was, this particular model, brand new in the UK, is £1,399, well out of my reach. But someone had bought this and decided against it and sold it very quickly, second hand. It's in absolutely mint condition, and I paid just over £800 for it, with free delivery. So it just shows you it's like cars, right? Get one second hand, right? It's almost brand new. It's lost a huge amount of its initial value. So that's the way to do it, I think, right? So I'm impressed with everything about it, apart from I expected more of the battery. The battery, obviously it lasts a lot longer than my old iPad here. This is the 6th gen basic iPad, but I did expect more of the battery, I'll be honest. Other than that, I'm absolutely over the moon with it. So here's the thing, is when I first got this iPad, I put this little project together and I purposely used some really heavy AV3s inside of Cubasis 3, which has not been known for being the best at handling AV3s, right? Oh, Joe's here. Hi, Joe. Thanks for joining us. My moderator is here, and she's very scary, so behave. She'll have you. So I used Model D. I used Waverly XL, which by Rob Jackson's own admission is a lot heavier than Mood units on DSP. I used Frames, which uses an awful lot of processing power, 2 instances of DRC with a lot of effects on, FAC drum kit, which is also using Bliss Shimmer. I'm using Agonizer, which again does take some processing power, and there's some effects and stuff going on. I'm using K7D, I'm using FAC Alteza, and so there's a lot going on in this project. Now let's just play a little bit of it from here, just so you can have a chance to check out the DSP again, right? So watch down here. I'll go to this view here. Alright, so now that's particularly impressive. But this is not just down to the fact that I've got a much more powerful iPad now. Because when I put this project together, it was glitching, it was struggling. Not terribly, but the glitches were there. Then the Cubasis 3.4 update came out. And I went to use the mouse. I went to setup. And I went to, whereabouts is it? I think it's in audio. Yes. And I went to multi-core processing and I activated it because I spend a lot of time online in different forums with talking to people who use iOS music software, and I've spent a lot of time helping people who've struggled with Cubasis 3. And a lot of the time when they've had issues with Cubasis 3 glitching and not running well, I've told them to simply switch off multi-core processing, and it's made things a lot better for them because basically it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. I've now activated it, and that made all the difference. When I did that, this project went from like running in the red DSP wise, glitching all over the place, to running at what you've just seen, like 20 odd %. So yeah, exactly, Vortex. How many times have we told people just disable multi-core processing, it'll work much better, and now we're going to be telling people to activate it because it makes a massive difference. So if you consider all those heavy AUV3s that I've got in this project and how now, and it's running no problem at all. It's ticking over, you know, and Cubasis 3 has a lot more to give. So yes, I have a very powerful iPad now and it makes a lot of difference, but I've also activated it over here on the old iPad, and I've been able to run projects on that iPad that before were just glitching all over the place. So thank you very much, Steinberg. There are some exciting features in this new update to talk about, but for me that is the most exciting thing. That's, you know, the absolute dogs as far as I'm concerned. I'm thrilled that it's now working so well. So just think now what size projects we're going to actually be able to do in Cubasis 3. It's phenomenal. All the heaviest AV3s I could think of, and it's running great. I mean, Model D and Frames, before this update, you could open those two AUV3s and Cubasis 3 wouldn't be able to cope. So, awesome. Right, let's press on. Now, I'm going to show you this before I forget. I was talking to someone about this online the other day, and I thought I'm going to include that in the live stream because hopefully that person is going to watch the stream like I kind of prompted them quite heavily to do. So up here we have our markers. Let's just put on snap to grid here. Okay, so we've got our left and right markers, which we can use to create loop. And let's just make it loop around, say, this bit here, right? So I send it here. Activate loop. Now it's going to loop round. All right, now, nice additional little feature to this is if I hold and press on one of these markers, you see the extra white line here? I can now move the whole thing as one. right? So when you make a change to your project and suddenly your loop is not where it was, instead of having to grab hold of both markers and shift them, you can just move the whole thing as one. Right, what else have we got here? Yes, done that. Okay, right, let's talk about MIDI time stretch. Now, here's an interesting thing. Because I spend a lot of time talking about Cubasis 3 online, and sometimes people talk at me as though I coded it, as though I'm Steinberg, and I take some flack for it. And one thing that one guy was particularly vicious about was the fact that Cubasis 3 didn't have MIDI time stretch, just audio. And I sort of thought, well, what do we want MIDI time stretch for? Why do we need that? I mean, if you're using MIDI and you want it to stretch over a longer period of time or less time, you just change the tempo of the track, right? And that's all you need to do. And then, the more I thought about it, I thought, oh, hang on. Yes, right. So, what I could do if I had MIDI time stretch, even though in Cubasis 3, as of yet, we don't have a tempo track Steinberg, I could actually, because most of my recording, although you're looking at a project right now that's full of AV3s, it's full of MIDI, but most of my recording that I do for myself is real audio, because I play things with strings. The main thing that I need AV3s for is actually drums. So if I'm going to record a project, right, that's going to be bass and lots of guitars and vocals, then I need drums. And I arrange my drums with MIDI, but using MIDI time stretch, I would be able to slow down sections of songs, speed up sections of songs. So the more I thought about it, the more I thought, actually, yes, that could be very useful. And to some extent make up for the fact that we don't have a tempo track. So let's have a look at how it works. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab this section of drums here. Now, I don't want to mess up my project because I'm going to work on this project some more, I think. And so I'm just going to copy this section here and I'm going to paste it over here. Then I can chop it up and not worry about messing up my project. So from about here, so this is 8 bars. So from about 4 bars in, I'll just chop that. So my idea is here, if this is the end of the song, can we use MIDI time stretch to create an ending to the song where it just kind of slows down to a final crash, the way that a live band might do on some songs, right? So let's give that a go. The way I'm going to do it is, because I want it to gradually slow down, I'm going to go to the beginning of each bar and just split the MIDI like that. Okay. And then I'll select all of these ones and just kind of move them across a bit, give myself a bit of room to work. Right. Now, select this one. I take snap to bar off and I go and press on stretch. Maybe I should use the mouse for some of this so you can see what I'm doing a bit more clearly. Right, so press stretch. Now you'll see this little box appears. And because it's a MIDI part that I've got highlighted, then the algorithm MIDI is shown. I can move this box around to put it somewhere more more helpful, right? More suitable. So it's not in my way, right? Which is nice. Hey, Bo, thanks for being here. No audio offset calibrated. Is it better left off? Oh, you mean this audio recording offset compensation? I just leave it off. I just leave it off, mate. I've honestly just not needed it, dude. I think when I was messing around with the iPad originally, when I got my first audio interface, I experimented with changing settings in that, and it didn't help, so I've left it off ever since. That's as technical an answer as I can give you. But Vortex is here. He may know more about it. If so, Vortex, then be helpful and speak up in the chat. Okay, so we've got a time stretch algorithm for this MIDI. Now you will see that we've got this sort of light blue outline to the MIDI, and we've got these little arrows. So if I put my finger on the arrow, I can stretch that piece of MIDI, and so now it's going to move slower over a longer period of time. Now I'll go to the next one, and I'm going to drag it up so that it is right after this piece here. And now I'm going to drag this one and make it that little bit longer, and so on and so on. This one. Now, if I was doing this for an actual proper project, I obviously would take a bit more time over it and look a bit more closely at how long I was making these little sections. But, you know, just for demonstration purposes, this might actually be a bit drastic, a little bit OTT, but let's see. Just put that up to there. And MIDI time stretch. Make this one quite long. And then see, if I just zoom in, you can see that they're all getting a bit longer. I honestly think that this is going to be a bit over the top. Might sound a bit silly, but it will still demonstrate what it is that we can actually do. I can switch time stretch off now, because this last one, this is just a crash. And there we go. Right, so let's just play these drums. Right, so this section is still in time to the track, and then after this bar, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I've asked that up because I've got a little loop going on here. Okay, forget that, right? We'll edit that out later. Let's try again. Okay, so this bit's in time to the track, and then after this bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, we start to slow down. Right? So that works. Now everyone has a different workflow, but just to kind of like give you an idea of how this might work for me, if I'm going to record a track and I put my MIDI in for my drums and I use this to speed up stuff and slow down stuff, then I freeze it, convert it to real audio, and I've got some drums to then work to, which are going to be much more like a real drum feel, because I've got the speeding up and slowing down. You could even use it for tempo changes if you think about it. Might take a little bit of maths, but it's doable. So this is a fantastic feature for me. Now, you're going to be thinking, well, yeah, but because you don't have a tempo track, when you're recording bits of real audio to those drums, then the MIDI where you've changed the speed of the drums are not going to line up with the bar lines in the project, like here, as you can see, right? These are not going to line up at all, and that's very true. But like, you can still see, even if I'd converted it to real audio, you can see the waveforms, so if you wanted to kind of go in and edit the audio that you're recording and make it perfectly in time and all that stuff, I tend to leave it quite loose, but if that's what you want to do, that's still possible. You can look at your WAV files and line it up that way. So it really does open up a lot of kind of much more real feel kind of possibilities. All right, so yes, simple tempo changes, Gregory, with a bit of effort, are now possible. So this is another feature which, for me, I'm really pleased about. This is going to be very, very useful to me. And if anyone watches this stream and then you go away and have a go with it and you need any help with it to kind of make it do what you want it to do, get in touch with me, because I'm going to be using this feature a whole lot. Right, now, oh right, yeah, the chord thing. Right, let's have a look at the chord thing. So for this, I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to add a MIDI track with acoustic piano on it. That's all we need. And I'll just do this, right? And then, okay. So I've got an acoustic piano on this track here now. And if I press on keys, right? So we've got the usual thing that we're used to, right? I can play the piano with the on-screen keyboard. But you'll see now at the top of that keyboard we have some numbers, and I can switch those off. I can get rid of them if this is a feature you don't want. Then all you need to know is that you can switch it off by pressing this button here, right? But I'm going to switch it back on, and I'll just show you that if I press this chord button here, it plays me a full chord. That's a bit loud, actually, isn't it? Let's just turn down that piano. Don't want to blow your ears out with piano. There we go. Right, so we've got some chord buttons. Now you can edit what's on these chords by going to this button that says edit, and then as you will see, right, for chord button number 1, you'll see what notes are attributed to that button. So let's say you want on chord button 1, you want it to play a D major 7. Maybe you're really pants at playing chords. I'm not so hot at that myself. Now, yes, Cubasis 2 did have some chord buttons, and there's been a lot of complaining about the fact that it was taken away in Cubasis 3, and so now Steinberg have added this in, right? Let's say you want chord button number 1 to play you a D major 7. And maybe you're rubbish at playing chords, but you can go on Google and you can find out what notes are included in a D major 7, right? If I press on these notes will go away. We'll keep that one because it's a D. Right, now, when I play a D major 7, I want this note, and I want this note, and I want this note. And now, there we are. I'm actually looking at that and questioning whether I have put the right notes on there. Just let me just put my fingers on this keyboard over here and just check that I did that chord correctly. No, I didn't, you know. I got one wrong. It should be that one. It sounded nice though. There we are. Right, so there's my D major 7, now inputted correctly. Now, here's one thing about this. So basically, you can set yourself some chords up, right? And then you could just play them with these buttons here. Now, of course, with a controller attached or with the on-screen keyboard, you could potentially play the chords like this. And play a melody over the top like that, right? So that is pretty cool. But one thing about this that I think is a little bit of a shame is that I can't MIDI map a controller to these buttons. Now this isn't something that I would use, right? But I think for a lot of people it would be very helpful if you could do. Hey, Sasha's here. Thanks for joining us, Sasha. Hope you're well, sir. It was nice to see you here, Sasha. Yes, I think this is something that would be really useful to people if you could MIDI map a controller to these buttons. Let me just show you. If I go to Setup and I go to MIDI and I press on MIDI Learn, and then it will highlight everything that I can map a controller to. So just go back to my keys here. Now these buttons are not highlighted. I can't map a controller to them. However, Cubasis 3 does still have the chord pads. If I go here, and I wanted to remember to show this in the stream because I was helping somebody with this earlier, somebody who just got Cubasis 3. I was talking to him online and telling him about these chord pads. If I press this button here, it switches the keyboard over to some chord pads, right, which are very useful. And I can map a controller to these chord pads. But let me just show you something that I discovered. Maybe you can help me with this. Maybe I am missing something. I've found that if I press on, say, let me find a chord I want. Right, so there's an E minor 7 here. So I press on it, and then I press on my controller to tell Cubasis 3 which controller button I'm going to use to play that chord. I press this one. But you only heard a note there. You didn't hear a chord. If I just come out of MIDI Learn and press that controller button, it's not working. It's not playing the chord. It's just playing that note. So that's a bit disappointing. If just to demonstrate, if I press on the chord pad on the screen, I'm getting a very full and very beautiful chord. So I'm not sure whether that is an error, whether that is a bug, or whether I am just missing something. I'm not really sure. But if I, I mean, these chords, these chord pads, I never thought I would use these chord pads, but I actually found that I was able to come up with some really cool things for some of my songs with these chord pads. So like, because I will play them in a way that I would not be able to play chords because I'm not that great a keyboard player. So. So I do really kind of enjoy using them. Right, now I've gone onto the wrong screen view. Why have I done that? Let me just correct that. My old iPad's frozen. I'm using it as a stream. Oh no, it's alright, it's okay. Here we go. I'm using it as a stream deck. I've actually got 3 iPads here now. I've got my old iPad Air over here, which is now my Stream Deck that switches between screens. Then there's the new iPad Pro 11 here, and then my 6th gen over here. I've also got about 6 iPhones, and they all have a use. Not necessarily that. The phones in particular I don't necessarily use massively frequently, but they do all come in. Yes, I sure. Really. Hang on, I'm looking at the wrong screen. I can't see that one over there. It's too far away. Might that be a controller setting you could check at the desktop? Could that be? I could check that with the Akai desktop software. Yeah, I could, but I think that really, strictly, all Cubasis 3 should need is a signal to that pad. I'm not sure. I'll have a think about it. I'll have a look into it, Sasha. But I'm in touch with Lars at Steinberg quite a lot at the moment. So I'll ask him. Now, I will mention, just while it's on my mind, a couple of things I've been in touch with I nearly said Sasha, with Lars about. Like I mentioned earlier, there are a couple of glitches that have come in, although Steinberg have fixed an awful lot of bugs that have been around for a while with this update. There are a couple of bugs that come in with the new features, which will very soon be sorted out. One of them is, occasionally on certain AUV3s, your MIDI might cause another track to play, which is a bit weird. Like AR909, I had a problem with that the other day. I had frames on one track, and the MIDI from frames was playing the AR909, which I'd not put any MIDI into that yet. So, I've reported that to Steinberg. A couple of other bits and pieces like that as well. And also, some people have experienced problems when they've done a mix down to multiple stems. It hasn't created all of the stems. So they're looking at that. Okay. Now, what else do I need to... I'm just going to say again, for anyone who's in the chat now who wasn't here earlier, I'm having a problem with this iPad over here, right? It is not Ableton linking. It was last night, no problem. I want to use it in my Ableton Link demonstration, and it is not. It's just not seeing the other devices. It's just not linking up. I've tried resetting the Wi-Fi in the iPad, and I've tried resetting Ableton Link in that iPad, and to no avail. It's just not seeing the other devices. So if anyone has any ideas how I can get that to work, because I've Googled it and there just doesn't seem to be any information about that whatsoever. Not for iPads. So let's see now. Oh right, yes. A boring new feature. It's not boring. It's helpful, but it's not an exciting feature. Is the state saving. So what you will find now in Cubasis 3 is that when you do things like say your mixer, if you adjust the size of it and that kind of thing, let's say you leave it like that, but later on when you come back to your mixer, you should find it's still the same, and the same will go for things like menus, adjustments that you make. It will come back to the same thing. So state saving, bit of a boring but very helpful feature which has been massively improved. Now, before I end this stream, I am going to demonstrate the Ableton Link thing, but I'm probably not going to be able to demonstrate it quite so fabulously as I wanted to, because this iPad is basically being a twat. I'll just show you. If I you can see it on that camera there. If I go to the three dots in AUM here, it says Ableton Link enabled, but it's also saying no peers connected. And if I go to my setup up here in MIDI, it's just not talking to that iPad. I do not know why. Anyone got any ideas? Throw them in the chat. Right? But this is just typical. Yeah, it's great that, isn't it, Sasha? I like that feature. I really like that. Yeah, so if anyone has any ideas how to fix that. Oh, Samuel's here. Maybe Samuel will know. Sam, have you heard that? I'm having a bit of an issue here. Last night I had a project going, a sort of a practice project that I wanted to use to demonstrate Ableton Link, right? Now you're the expert on these little details. So, do you know what I need to do? Because today, my old iPad is not Ableton linking. It's not seeing the other devices. I've reset the Wi-Fi, I've reset Ableton Link, and it's just, I mean, I could have used my phone for this demonstration, but the phone is there. It's the webcam. The phone was seeing this iPad no problem. If I take the phone and the iPads in the house and use the Wi-Fi in the house, they all connect immediately. But here in my studio, this one is just today anyway. It's not seeing everything else. I've switched it off and back on again. I mean, what more can a man do? Yeah, and quite frankly, it's pissing me off. It just won't see the other devices. Very upsetting. So, Sam, if you know, tell me what I need to do. Right, so we need a new project. I'm going to start a completely new project. And I'm going to go here and we'll just call it new project. That'll do. Now, in setup here, you will see that I've got Ableton Link activated. Oh, Sam says, so the other device is still able to use the web and other things, but Link is not working. Yeah, that's it. I mean, this new iPad will see my iPhone if I put Ableton Link on both of them. And it's connecting Ableton Link internally, but this one is just, it doesn't session. No, I'm sure that the problem is very much here. Yeah, rebooted all the devices, Sam. Yeah, the problem is very much with this iPad, because if I open up two music apps on the old iPad and Ableton Link is activated, that's not working either. So yeah, it's very much centered around this iPad. That makes total sense, Gregory, but nothing's changed from last night when it was working. So can you connect to Link apps, not the same device? No, I can't. So I don't know. What I might do is just one more time, is just try switching this one off and back on whilst I crack on with showing you this. So for people who don't know about Ableton Link, it's basically a protocol that you can use to get different audio devices or different audio software that can be on the same device to talk to each other and play in time to each other. There are some options here in Cubasis 3. So here, use the mouse. Here, this option is basically switch Ableton Link on. This one, being on the same device. No, mate. No, I can't. Nope. It won't do that. In-app notifications, this is to give me a nice green bar across the top of the screen that tells me that another device or another piece of software is connected via Ableton Link. And this is the one that some people might want on or off depending on what you're trying to do. Synchronize start and stop. So the idea being that if I'm connected to AUM and I press play in AUM, it will make Cubasis 3 start playing. So you may or may not want it to do that. I do, so I've got that activated. Now, I'm going to go to AUM. And in AUM, I'm going to open up. Now you can see that this is connected already because I've got this little link icon up here. And just to back that up, if I go to my three dots here, Ableton Link enabled, and all of these things switched on, just the same as Cubasis 3, and it says connected to one peer, which is Cubasis 3. Over here, I want to just go and open up the project I was working on last night, which is my Ableton Link demo. Now, because there's a conflict between the tempo in the project on Cubasis 3 and the project in AUM, it's asking me, do we want to change the tempo to 115 beats per minute, which is the way Cubasis 3 is set? I'm going to say yes. And now, before I press play, I'm just going to check in my settings the sample rate and bit depth. You'll see why in a bit if this goes wrong. Now I'm just going to press play here. This could be a bit loud. I've got volume, don't worry. Right, now while this is playing, I'm just going to go over to Cubasis 3. And it stopped itself. Let's just repeat, pretend that didn't happen, right? Take two. I'm pressing play in AUM. I'm going over to Cubasis 3. Okay, and you'll see Cubasis 3 started playing. There's nothing in Cubasis 3 at the moment, but the point is it made the project start playing. And if I press play here in Cubasis 3, the same thing happens. Is background audio in AUM on? Oh, that's a... wait a minute, let me just go back up the chart. I've missed some stuff. Does your router do 5 Hz and 2.4? Yes, it does. Are you trying to connect AUM with Link on one device to another device running Cubasis with Link? I am trying to connect AUM and Cubasis 3 together on this iPad, which is working, and I want AUM on this iPad to also be working and connected via Ableton. The old iPad might not do 5 gigahertz. My router doesn't forward. Oh, could that be the problem? It's on, otherwise it would not play. Yeah, that's true. I don't know, I'm at a bit of a loss. I'm just going to let it sort of settle onto the Wi-Fi before I try and do anything with this iPad, right? I've restarted it. Let's see what happens in a bit. Okay, so where was I? Right, so what's happening at the moment, let's be absolutely clear. When I press play, whether I press play in Cubasis 3 or in AUM, both devices are connected, both are playing, but the audio in AUM is going from AUM out of my iPad into my audio interface, which is out of shot today. It's my iRig Pro Duo, and it's sort of over here. So wouldn't it be nice if that audio in AUM was coming into Cubasis 3 so I could record it? That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? So let's do that. Now, here's the problem with this. This involves using in-trap audio, and you will notice with every iOS update, in-trap audio becomes a bit more fragile and a bit more of a problem, because gradually it's going to disappear. I mean, it's still lingering around for now, but I found it to be more and more unstable. So cross your fingers. This can be tricky. So we'll add an audio track here and go over to routing. I press on mono input and I switch that for inter app and press on AUM port 1. Now I can go to my first track in AUM, press on external and select that node for Cubasis 3. Now, if I press on that icon, it will take me back to Cubasis 3. So I repeat that process, and you have to do this in order, like I'm doing it now, or it will just fall apart. It's very sensitive. And it's not sensitive, it's not anything to do with Cubasis 3, that sensitivity. It's just the in-trap audio protocol is on its way out. So we go to here, add another audio track, mono input, switch to inter-app, AUM port 2. And then here we select that port 2 to send the second track to Cubasis 3. Press on the Cubasis 3 icon, and one last time we add an audio track, change it to inter-app audio, select AUM port 3, and send the third track to Cubasis 3 like that. Now, when I press play, this may glitch. If it does, we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, it's glitching. Now I have to show you that this is nothing to do with Cubasis 3, why it's glitching. First thing I'll do, I want to show you system info. It's not using a lot of DSP. Very little in fact. And it's using very little in AUM. Now the source of this glitching is, for me, it's got something to do with the sample rate, bit rate options. I've tried to find a solid way of matching those parameters in both apps so that this doesn't happen. And it seems there isn't a consistent solution. I tweeted about it last night. I thought I'd found the answer. I haven't. But what I have found is, if you change it while it's playing, sometimes the whole connection is lost, right? Sometimes it just fixes it. Now, we've got 16-bit here. Let's change that to 24 while it's playing. Okay, let's just change the sample rate this could have just killed AUM. Okay, so the connection to AUM is lost. I'm going to go to AUM and clear the project, and then open up last state. Now last night this fixed it perfectly. This exact same situation. Right, now note, this is set to 44.1, right? Bit depth 24. Now that they're the same, it seems to work okay. But no, it doesn't like that at all, Sam, I know. But you know what? You know, if you set them identically beforehand, before you connect them via Ableton Link, sometimes that works, but it doesn't always work. And sometimes if you just change either the sample rate or bit depth, even if they don't match up, sometimes it just corrects it. I don't think that's a Cubasis 3 problem. I just think that's something to do with doing this via Interrupt Audio. But I'm no expert on the technicalities. I don't know. All I know is I think I've just shown you how to make it work sometimes. Basically, the bottom line here is you have to pissy pants around with it to make it work. Alright, so for now it's not glitching. So I'm going to go to Cubasis 3 and show you. I'm going to press play. Oh! What was that? Oh, it's working. Okay. If I go to my mixer, look, you'll see I've got 3 inputs here. I can now mix those 3 outputs from AUM in Cubasis 3. So think of this now. And I realise there are some people in the chat today who know exactly how this works already, right? But for anyone else who's not as up on these things, just think of AUM now as an instrument with multiple outputs. So think of it as like, say, a synthesizer. Instead of having just a left and right output for stereo, it's got more outputs than that. And all of those outputs are now connected into our mixing desk. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, our mixing desk is Cubasis 3. So those outputs are going from AUM into Cubasis 3, and then Cubasis 3 is sending that audio out of the iPad to my interface, which is sending that audio to you in the stream. Okay, so that's where the connections are. Now, if Ableton Link were working on this iPad over here, I'm just gonna start AUM over here to, give it one more try. I already know it's not working because no green bar has appeared to tell me that it's working, and it would have done. That's very upsetting. So what I can't do now is start this iPad with the play button in Cubasis 3. And that's a real shame, because what I had happening last night was I had this project here, which was this one. And all I got going on was I've just got Bliss's Sidekick and a couple of effects. If I just press play on it, and then because the output from here, I'm just using the headphone out on this old iPad, that's going into my interface in Cubasis into my Arig Pro Duo interface. So in Cubasis 3, if I add an audio track, which has to be red because it's drums, then I can go to routing, change this to a stereo input, and go to my mixer, turn this down, and then turn up this input. I think this output on this. Yeah, my volume's all the way down on here. There we go. Okay, so I've got some drum audio coming in from this iPad. So, if Ableton Link was working on this iPad, then what would happen, this is a bit embarrassing, is I could just press play on here. This would start at the same time, and they would play in time to each other, and the audio coming from this iPad into Cubasis 3, I could record it. But I can't do that. So we'll just have to forget about that. I guess what I could do, actually, is... I'm getting you on that, Sam. That's a thought. Sometimes... Yes, sometimes the Wi-Fi has more than... I can choose more than one way of connecting to the same Wi-Fi. How far am I from the router? A long way, because the studio is in a separate building from the house. And the Wi-Fi comes into the studio via the mains. So the lead goes out the back of the router into a little adapter that goes into the mains, and then I've got the second adapter here in the studio. I mean, to be honest, the Wi-Fi reception in here is very, very good. But we are a long way from that router. So, yes, you're right. That's very probably what it is. Because I'm only getting the one option. The one way of connecting on this iPad in here. So that probably is what it is. But suffice it to say, it's not working. So, here's one thing I could do, though. I could just record a little bit of this. So, yeah, let's do that. Right. Just so I can use it. I mean, this has, got nothing to do with the current demonstration or whatever, but I only need let's have just 4 bars of that. Okay, now we'll take off snap, find the first beat of this, right, first beat is just there, snap to bar, bring that to there. This could be a total disaster, of course, but you know, just for the sake of it, let's just see. And then I could just kind of copy and paste that across a bunch of times. There's a little tip for you. You can select two parts like that, paste both. Here's a little tip for you that won't work. Do I get multiple options on the new iPad? Do you know I ain't even looked, Sam, because it just worked. So yeah, it just worked. So I ain't really looked. Let's select all three of them. Press copy. Go here. Paste. Onto the wrong track. Brilliant. There we are. Right. And then select all of those. Copy them. Select the right track. Paste on there. Right. That might do us. Let's just see if it connects up all right. Yeah, alright, it connects up reasonably well, so we can just kind of pretend that the Ableton Link worked. Okay, right, so now all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to spice up this project by just simply adding a couple of things, just to highlight one more point. I'm just going to add a couple of synths. I'm going to go to MIDI here. And I will add, let's see, we'll go with, we're having a Bliss day today. We're going to add Bliss Omega. And, oh, I need to select a sound. Stupid hippie. One of the ones that I made. There we are. And then we'll go to Midi Effects. And here I'm going to add Rosetta Collider, and I made a preset for this demonstration which will put it in the same key. That's marvelous. And then without even listening to it, I'm just going to go ahead and add another synth. This time we will go with Bliss Sample Waves and select my useless sound number 2, which I haven't sent yet to Bliss. Maybe I should rename it before I do. And MIDI Effects, we will go with Snakebud, and I've got a preset for that too. So all I've got for these two synths is just a couple of I'm using a couple of MIDI note generator, just to kind of create sort of random notes, just to kind of, because I'm just trying to create a bit of an atmospheric thing. I just kind of want to show you a project where Cubasis 3 is receiving audio in from AUM and is also playing instruments internally, and unfortunately I can't show you that audio coming in from this iPad, but I promise you it does work when your Wi-Fi network and everything is happening like it should be. Alright, so now if I press play, Alright, there we go. So we have just atmospheric nonsense basically. Let me just go over to AUM one more time and just demonstrate to you that if I press play in here, then all that stuff in Cubasis 3 will play. Okay, and so before I finish off today, the last thing that remains to do really is just to kind of prove a point. If I arm these 3 tracks from AUM, and now I'll demonstrate a second thing as well actually while I'm doing this. I'm going to arm these 2 tracks here, Omega and Sample Wiz. And I'm going to go to Rosetta Collider, the app that is making Omega make those random silly sounds. And I'm going to press on record to track. And I'm going to do the same thing for Snakebud here. And let's take record off of that track like a sensible hippie. And I'll see you later, Sam. Thanks for joining us. Take good care, buddy. See you again soon. And we'll press record. Okay, that's enough. That will do us for demonstration purposes. Now, what I need to do is before I press play, I need to make sure that I no longer have that audio coming in from AUM because we've recorded it, right? I don't need it to come in now. I don't need to remove the connection just yet, but what I do need to do is take off the track arm. And so now when I press play, although it will still activate AUM because it's still connected, we won't hear that audio coming into Cubasis 3. So press play. We'll just go solo all the tracks just to demonstrate that he has indeed recorded all of these tracks separately. I'm not even going to talk about that one. Okay, now, so the last thing really to show you here is that if you're using something like, an outside app, an AV3 app that is generating MIDI notes, if you want to record those MIDI notes to your Midi track in the Cubasis 3 project, then if you simply activate this record to track button here. Oops. Honestly, I just hate mice. Activate that record to track button and it will do that. Every note that it generates and plays, it will record onto this track here, as you can see. Now, I could of course now go and close those apps. I don't need them. And if I want to convert these to real audio, so that because everything else in my project is real audio, then I can just simply go and freeze these 2 tracks, and you'll see just how fast this is freezing on the iPad 11 Pro. But actually, the difference to the speed of that has not been caused by the fact that I went and bought a much more expensive iPad. It's been caused by the improvements made to multi-core processing. So make sure in your Cubasis 3 you now go and activate that. Okay, come out of there. Right, so now look at my project. Everything's real audio. I could now go and close AUM. Don't need that anymore. All the audio is real audio here inside Cubasis 3. And it's and the green bar is now telling me that there are no Ableton links because I've just closed AUM, right? So I hope that I've covered I've not covered absolutely everything about this update, but I've covered most of it, and I hope that most of that made sense. If you're having any problems with the update or anything else to do with Cubasis 3, iOS music, or music in general, whatever, do get in touch with me. All my information is down below the video. All the ways that you can contact me via my email address or social media, right? You can, thank you very much, Sasha. That means an awful lot coming from you, mate. So thank you ever so much for saying that. So yeah, you're welcome to contact me via any of those methods whatsoever. If you would like to help out the channel in any way, the most important thing that you can do is to give me a thumb up and subscribe if you haven't done. Ding my bell if you like this kind of nonsense from stupid old hippies farting around with iPads and pissing about, then please do ding my bell. And if you'd like to go a step further than that, you could share my video somewhere on social media. You could buy a Don't Pissy Pants About t-shirt from my Bandcamp, link down below. If you want to make a PayPal ME donation, all the information is down below. And if you just want to read about this stupid old hippie and his failed career as a international rock star not, then my web address is down there as well. If you'd like to join my Patreon, where I help people with their music creation, any problems they encounter, I actually perform on tracks for people. I help them with mixing. At the moment, we're making a track together in a collaborative way. If that sounds like fun, then go join my Patreon. You can pay whatever you want per month, but you can actually join for £1 or €1 or $1 or a shitter or whatever it is that it's called, right? Wherever you just happen to reside. So thank you ever so much, those of you who have watched me today, or those of you who may be watching from the future. I really appreciate you joining me. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care of yourselves. Don't piss your pants about, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.